When the sun lowers toward the horizon and the sky turns black, when lines blur and things are not exactly what they seem, when the normal makes way for the strange and unexplained, it's time to question what is natural and what lies beyond our understanding. It's time to enter the edge of the unknown with your host, Mark Henry.
Everybody to the edge of the unknown, as the big voice guy said. Yes, my name is Mark Henry, your host for an interesting evening of very cool talk of a paranormal nature, which I am want to do each and every Sunday evening here on the All One Broadcast Radio Network from 8 until 10 p.m. EST. Great guest coming up for you this evening. I know you're going to enjoy it very, very much. A little bit away from, actually, a lot of the shows that I've been doing here since the switch from WECK have been focused on things that I was not able to do in the last 4 years of the radio program, as it were, to talk a little bit more about astrology, to talk a little bit more about what we're going to talk about tonight, numerology. Very, very cool subject. Numbers mean a lot to me. I'm not sure why. Perhaps it's the ex-sports guy side of me that's very interested in stats and facts and figures and that sort of thing. We're going to talk about that tonight with my very excellent guest. But as always, a couple of things that I got to get to before I do introduce Elizabeth Summers, who will be with us for the next 2 hours talking numerology. I want to take a quick second here before I even talk about what's coming up in the following weeks for the edge of the unknown. Again, standard stuff. The numbers are always the same. If you want to get on board the show, give me a call, 716-393-9525. That's 716-393-9525. You can always get a hold of me at theedgeoftheunknown@gmail.com. Find me on Facebook, Edge of the Unknown Radio Show. Just like it, shoot me a message there. And again, if you miss this here radio program, you'll be able to find it on our on-demand section at allonebroadcast.com. Just click on the on-demand button. If you are listening on our website, allonebroadcast.com, please click on the button that says Live Chat Room. We will take your questions and comments there as well. A couple of down notes to start the show off, which we're going to rebound from quickly. Tonight's show for me is going to be great, but it's done with a semi-heavy heart. My program director from WECK, unfortunately, had some bad news. His beautiful wife, Bridget, lost her life to cancer this past week. She'd been struggling for the last 6 years, and she would come into the station while I was doing my show quite often on a Sunday evening and would hang out and was always fascinated and very interested in the stuff that I was talking about. And so, and unfortunately, it was her time, and I hate to say things like that because it's such a cheesy way to talk about someone passing away, but she fought very valiantly. She fought very hard, and unfortunately lost that battle last week, and they had a service for her yesterday. So my condolences go out to Tom Shue, who is a terrific guy who fielded way too many of my engineering questions on a Sunday night when no one else was in the studio and something was going wrong. God bless Bridget. God bless Tom. And also, another sad note, a friend of the show who many of you have probably seen on the History Channel or on the National Geographic Channel, Mr. Steve Kulls, who is known as the Squatch Detective. He's a really good guy. He's been on the show a couple of times in different capacities. Hopefully I'm going to run into him this summer when I do my annual trek up to the Adirondack Mountains. Steve is up from that area. He is a very ardent supporter of Bigfoot research. He is in the field, a terrific guy, very well spoken. Steve lost his mother this past week as well, so I wanted to, make sure at least I threw a little bit out there to acknowledge, pardon my throat clear there, to acknowledge Steve for being the great guy that he is, for doing the things that he does, and for the great work that he does. And hopefully he will be coming back on the show. It's tougher for him to do Sunday nights now with a couple of other commitments, but we'll work something out. But again, condolences to the Shu family, condolences to Steve Culls and the passing of his mother. Very, very sad stuff to talk about, but we will move on here with the Edge of the Unknown. Thanks for hanging out with me on a Sunday evening, whether you're kicking your week off or you're wrapping your week up. It's always a fun time to talk about the paranormal in a safe, civilized manner, whether you are a true believer or you are a staunch skeptic. We keep it clean here. We love to have excellent conversation. We always do. A couple of things coming up. Next week, as I mentioned, and it's funny because my guest tonight hails from the great state of Colorado, and she was watching her Broncos right before I gave her a ring, and she was terribly thrilled that the Broncos beat the Chargers, and I told her, you know what? I'm not a big conspiracy theorist guy, but my Saints lost last night. They had a chance to get into the end zone, and their wide receiver, Marcus Colston, who is not a young guy, he's been in the league since 2006. He knows better with 7 seconds to go to just fall outside of the boundaries, stop the clock, eat another playoff. He decides to throw a forward pass across the field. I'm going to step into conspiracy theory. Maybe not. But, you know, next week we are going to be talking about conspiracy theories, whether it's HARP, Area 51, the Denver airport, Mothman, whatever it is. Dr. Barna Donovan will be my guest. We're going to be talking about his expertise in the world of conspiracy theories, as well as his book, Conspiracy Films, A Tour of Dark Places in the American Conscious. So that's coming up. Also on January 26th, Dr. Joyce Michael Flynn will be returning to talk about near-death experiences and her metahabilitation, something that she does with patients who have suffered from near-death experiences. And her book, Turning Tragedy into Triumph, it's a great book. She's going to come on and talk a little bit about that. February 2nd is the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, I will not be here, but you will have a show. That will be TBA. And on February 9th, Winter Lake, a guy I've been trying to track down for the last 2 years, will be coming on to discuss Satanism and black magic. Very interesting guy, very well read, very well learned, and a very good writer. He will be on The Edge of the Unknown. Without further ado, I am going to give a quick introduction to my excellent guest this evening. I'm going to let her expand on her background, and we're going to talk about the history of numerology and then jump right into things. If you do want to get on board tonight to talk a little bit about your life number, the numbers that pertain to you, I want you to feel free to. I will not turn this into a, hey, come get your free fortune reading, because as all you know who listen to the show, that's not what we do here. But we do want to talk about how numbers play a role in your life. We want to talk about the possibilities that those numbers might open up for you. If you do get on board, whether it's via email or the phone, please let us know your first and middle name, the month and day of your birth, and your age. And I will repeat that throughout the show, so Elizabeth Summers will have a little bit of background on you, and she will be able to talk a little bit more about the numbers that might be important in your life. So without any further ado, we are talking numerology with one of the foremost numerologist experts in this here country, Elizabeth Summers. She's been doing this for a long time, combining numerology with astrology, with the Kalian and Kabbalah, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, I think I am, Kabbalah interpretations of the tarot. Numerology. What the heck is numerology? Numerology has been around for a long, long time. It is the combination of numbers and coinciding things that happen in our lives. Why do they happen the way that they do based on numeric values? She knows exactly why. She's going to talk a little bit about why she knows why, and it is my pleasure to introduce to the Edge of the Unknown, Ms. Elizabeth Summers. Elizabeth, thank you so much. Congratulations to your Broncos. Thanks for hanging out with me on the Edge.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, and hello to everyone who's listening tonight. Bronco fans or not Bronco fans, it's okay. I'm also my secondary. I must really truthfully say that I am a cheesehead and prefer that particular team if I had my druthers. But here in Denver area, there is no escape. I mean, there's literally no escape from rooting for the Broncos. So they did well, and but I think next week will be the mini, if you will, Super Bowl, because I do believe the Broncos are going to be meeting the Patriots.
That is
and
correct.
I think that will be the mini Super Bowl, and then after that, whatever.
Right?
So,
okay, sure. And I wonder how many and I do not recommend this, but I wonder how many bookies might be listening in to see if they can actually glean any information from numbers off of that. No, I would never do that. Come on, give me a break. Elizabeth, let's talk a little bit about how you got involved in numerology, and then I'd like to talk a little bit about just the idea of numerology. When did it start, and why is it still going on today after so many thousands of years?
Well, personally, it started for me way back in the late 80s. In the late 80s, we had it astrologically what is called a harmonic convergence. A lot of planets, energies up in the universe all coming together in one big party energetically. But it activated in many of us a spiritual quest. And I began becoming very curious about metaphysics, about the esoteric sciences. I picked up tarot cards. I studied all of their interpretations. I did runes. I looked into astrology. You know, I was just curious. It was, and that is what I tell my clients when they're in the transition of going from, say, formalized religion of Catholicism, Lutheranism, Judaism, whatever, to moving over to a remembrance of who they are as souls. Very basically, I say to them, follow your curiosity. So one day I was attending, I had a personal visit with a channeler. And a channeler, and I am clairvoyant, so I do this now for my own clients. But this channeler was bringing through to me spirits from the other side, and this one spirit came through and said to me, now I was to begin my numerology work. And I had not a clue what the dude was talking about. And so the channeler gave me the title of a book, which I still use today, that combined ancient spiritual interpretations of numbers, astrology, and the tarot card interpretations, bundled it all together, and I got the book, I did the formulas, found it fascinating, and I put them all away. Well, that was kind of interesting sort of thing. One day, a year later, I was in my kitchen. Everything happens in my kitchen. I hear everything in my kitchen. And the reason for that, to digress, is when I go into my kitchen, I kind of mentally go into a neutral zone where I'm washing dishes or I'm cooking or I'm chopping, very mundane things. I switch into a mental neutral zone, and I think I shut down my mouth enough that my higher self can get through to me and start talking, which is basically what happens. In fact, I have a book that is in process called Voices in My Kitchen, because I cannot tell you how many stories, how many transmissions, how much guidance that I get while I am doing very mundane things in the kitchen.
Well, honestly, I don't even mean to interrupt you, but I'm going to throw this out there, just as a lover of all things paranormal and as a lover of all things life, and I love to cook. The kitchen really is the heart of a household. That's where everyone does come together for sustenance, usually conversation. The kitchen really is the heartbeat of any domicile, wouldn't you say?
Oh, totally. Absolutely, totally. It's where people come and they let down. They relax. They just take on a totally different comfort zone and energy. And this day, way back in the 80s, when I was in my kitchen, a spirit voice said to me, and I'm clairaudient, I hear spirits, go get those formulas out. You know, that book, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. So I went and I got them all out. I looked at the results that I had formulated, and they were so accurate, I was hooked. And 45, 50 books later, numerologically speaking, here I am today after 25 years doing this professionally for clients literally all around the globe. I have an international clientele. I love it. It's fascinating to me, and it is so enlightening and beneficial to people that these ancient peoples, thousands of years ago, who didn't have television, radio, and sports cars to zippity-doo-dah around. They had quiet. They had silence. They worked at a different vibrational level intuitively, and they were able to pull through from the spirit world information, which then they, as humans, formulated it into a system. It's actually a system. It's a language, actually. It's called neurolinguistics. A very simple, it looks like simple algebraic formulas that I plug information into, that I get numbers, what we call numbers, that are codes of information. The numbers have no power. They're codes of information that I know what the codes mean from 45, 50 books later. And then I translate them to my clients as part of their life patterns.
So how long has numerology been around? Obviously, as I mentioned, in the brief introduction, that this isn't something that just happened, a couple of 100 years ago. This has been going on for quite some time, whether it's thousands of years.
Right.
And obviously, whether you want to look at it from a scientific value or not, it still incorporates a lot of the same numbers that scientists do use to talk about the paranormal.
That is correct. In the work that I do, I combine two systems. One is a 5,000-year-old code system, the Chaldean system, that uses glyphs that we call numbers, keeping in mind that what we write on paper is numerals. Numerals represent quantities. Numbers represent qualities, emotional, psychological, spiritual qualities that are found within a person's birth name and their month, day, and year of birth. And so when I do my readings, and everything is done by hand, nothing is computerized. When I do a client's reading chart, I have 4 pages in front of me of these formulas. Numerology is the simplest esoteric science to learn. I have a workbook on my website that is for beginners. Anyone who wants to do their own numbers themselves, just go to my website, elizabethsummers.com. And it's so simple. The interpretation is what is the gift. And so 4 pages of formulas using a 5,000-year-old code system, 1 through 8, that gives me interpretations on a really deep level of who that person is as a soul coming into this lifetime. Fast forward 2,600 years ago, a highly evolved entity, spirit being, master being, by the name of Kasumi, came into human form yet again. He's come a couple times. He's come as Bartholomew, one of the apostles. He came as St. Francis of Assisi. He came this time as Pythagoras. Yes, of geometry fame. And Pythagoras was believed firmly as a mathematician as well as a metaphysician, and believed, and rightly so, and science proves this too, that the universe works mathematically in cycles, in patterns, and it has a circular pattern also. And so he and his students developed, as did the Chaldeans also, what are called mystery schools. And I would not have lasted 5 minutes in that mystery school because you had to consign for 5 years of silence. Oh, I don't think I would have lasted 12 minutes. And so in his work and his students' work, they developed theories, they developed formulas, they developed patterns that I use today, that I interpret today, that were kept secret. They were kept secret within the group. Well, Pythagoras got murdered by the Politico at the time and finished his life on the island of Samos. He particularly tooled around the Mediterranean. After his death, the students said, well, the heck with this silence stuff, number one. And number two, the heck with this secret stuff. We are going to proliferate this information throughout the Western world at that time, 2,600 years ago. We're not talking America. And they began to do so. That today is known as Western numerology or Pythagorean numerology, with the basic numbers 1 through 9. And that's the simplistic codes that are found on the internet. But really, folks, the numbers 1 through 9 are like a basic black dress. The work that I do is combining astrology, is combining numbers 1 through 78 from the ancient tarot interpretation that is like jewelry on that basic black dress. So there is such depth to this work that opens people's eyes as to who they are as a soul and their journey for this incarnation.
My guest here this evening on The Edge of the Unknown is Elizabeth Summers. We are talking about numerology. She is a numerologic expert. You can check out her website, elizabethsummers.com. That's just Summers. And she's going to talk a little bit more about some of the, worksheets that you can find there if you're interested in learning a little bit more about your number. If you want to get on board the show this evening as we take you up until 10 o'clock, feel free to do so. 716-393-9525. That is the number to get on board. If you would like, you can also shoot me an email, theedgeoftheunknown@gmail.com. So, okay, Elizabeth, you're doing all this study. You're learning all this stuff. Is it an... I get this is a weird question because I think I already know the answer, but is it an unending search? Does it always go on? Will there always be more to study with numerology? Or is it something that, do you think eventually somebody's going to come up with an all-encompassing theory, numbers are numbers, and we'll at least have a blueprint that we can follow for on and on and on and on through the eons of time, or will it always evolve?
Well, I think that the blueprint is already there. The blueprint, depending upon the depth of the blueprint that one wants to get involved in. I mean, think of a house. If you or I went out and looked at a plot of ground and took a brown paper bag and drew an outline, a sketch of the house that we want, and this is where the bedroom goes, and that's where this goes, and kitchen goes, okay, fine. That numerological blueprint's still already out there, the Pythagorean system and its formulas. But if we took a professional architect to the same plot of ground and said, make me a blueprint of the house that I want to live in, his blueprint will be so much more detailed because of his study, his knowledge, his depth, his detail work, and that's what I do. I'm like the architect. And so therefore, I'm able to apply to the basics additional information that gives more depth to the readings that I do for people. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely.
Does that answer your question?
No, that makes perfect sense. One of the things I wanted to talk about before, a couple of comments have popped in through the live chat room at allonebroadcast.com. What are and I guess this is kind of a weird way to ask it because I don't even know if this is a real term, the power numbers. What are the ones that stick out for most people that, anything that they might have happening in their lives would be the ones that would jump out at them as, something that is a little more meaningful than some of the other numbers that might apply?
There is no such thing.
Excellent.
There is no such thing. In everyone that is human moves through patterns of 9-year cycles from birth to death. And that's part of what I'll be doing for our listeners that call in tonight, is to decipher for them in this moment of time what year they are in their current 9-year cycle. Every year within that 9-year cycle has its own issue. It's like 9 kids with different personalities. Do this, don't do that. Various themes, a time to move forward, a time to stand still, a time to begin, a time to end. That is so helpful for people to have clarity about so that they're not banging their head against a closed door. And so now there are times, and depends on how clear and connected a soul is to their higher self, to the spirit world that they allow to come through to them, they will periodically see a repetition of numbers. And that is one way that their guides, their masters, communicate to them. That brings to their consciousness a noticing of, I'm always seeing 222. I'm always seeing 644. I'm always. Theoretically, if they ask me, I would be able to interpret for them from my profession what those numbers mean. But for the layperson, the most important thing is that they are noticing it, because it is one of the ways that their guides are saying to them, we're here. You're not alone. We're helping you. Lights will flicker. I just wrote in my newsletter, I send out a newsletter, which is free. Everyone's welcome to sign up for it on my website, elizabethsummers.com. I just sent out today a personal story, where about telling them my own personal thing that's happened the last couple of weeks, in that ways that their guides, my guides, were saying to me, we're here, we are taking care of you. I have my master guide is an American Indian. He's been with me for years and years, and his name is Whitefeather. And so one day, a couple weeks ago, I went into the kitchen, of course, and I was thinking to myself that I have to do this and that and the other thing, and I hope I can accomplish this, and, getting all kind of in a little frenzy. And I turned around, and on a blue cloth, tea towel was stuck in my kitchen, a tiny white feather. And I looked at that. Now, how did the feather get into my kitchen? And I looked at that, and I got it. He was saying to me, don't worry. We're here. I'm here. I'm helping you. Whenever, to our listeners, there's feathers around all the time, I know. But whenever a feather draws your consciousness, that is a gift from your guides. Feathers are gifts. And that is one of the ways that the spirit guides that we have communicate to us as a support system. So then, a couple days later, back in the kitchen, I was, again, but I was calm. I'm not getting crazy about this, but I'm like thinking and, trying to put all this together because there's been with all the radio shows I do, there's such a deluge of personal readings that have been ordered and whatever, and it takes me 2 hours to do every reading with every client. And so I'm in the kitchen, and I'm thinking about this, and the lights flickered. In my whole career, I've never had the lights go off. The lights flickered. It was like a boom, boom, 1, 2, 3 seconds. The lights flickered. And I stood there, and I just laughed. I giggled. I said, okay, all right, I understand. Don't worry, they're saying. Don't worry, we will get it all taken care of. See, the spirit world is very electrical. It's very high vibration. It's very, very electrical. And so they have a capacity to interfere with our electrical, our own personal electrical strata, but also electricity and television and computers. I have a client who keeps telling me how much she hates her computer. She hates this computer, and she is constantly having trouble with her computer. I say I love my computer, which I do. I love my computer. I love this and that and the other thing. I never have a problem. And so electricity and electrical malfunction, for one of a better word, is one of the ways that they'll get through to us to say, hello, I'm here. Don't worry. We'll take care of it. Very cool.
Elizabeth Summers, my guest. Check out her website, elizabethsummers.com. And I actually scratched this down before you started to talk a little bit about it. What about those who experience other forms of the paranormal, whether it be an alien visitor or perhaps, as I mentioned, Steve Culls at the beginning of the show, seeing a strange creature in the wilderness, or even seeing ghosts in their home, or if they go on a tour of an old building? How do the numbers play into that?
They don't. That has nothing to do with numerology. It has to do with the paranormal. It has to do with clairvoyance. It has to do with the energy fields that are able to be perceived. Ghosts are discarnate. They are stuck between the human life and the spiritual life. And so, therefore, when I came into an awareness years ago of my gift of clairvoyance, of being able to, quote-unquote, talk to dead people, I made a deal with the guides, my guides, and I said, okay, I'll do this. But I do not want to see them in third dimension standing in front of me like on Ghost Whisperer on television. No way. I do not want to see that. I see them up in my third eye like I'm watching Lifetime movie on television. And so, therefore, the paranormal really has nothing to do with the more grounded formulas and interpretations of numerology, period, let alone esoteric numerology. It's a different field. It's a different energy concept.
Now, in a lot of the popular stuff that's out there, if I may bring this up, especially when it comes to psychic readings and you know, whatever it's going to be, whether it's a famous person or someone that you can just, you know, go up to their office and talk to them, why is there, and maybe this is my incorrect perception, it seems there's more of a desire to get a psychic reading rather than a reading based on astrological terms or numerical terms. I could be off base on that, but it just seems to be that way from my perspective, that more people are willing to talk to someone who is going to give them a psychic reading rather than a worksheet that they can work on themselves and maybe have a little bit more input or a little more say in.
Well, you know, I think it is familiarity, number one. They are more familiar with the quote-unquote business, which is the wrong word, of psychic, of intuitiveness. And one has to be very careful when they get involved with that genre. Because, and even with tarot card readers, now, I do not do spreads for people. The work that I do is interpretations of the ancient tarot meanings that are thousands of years old, some of which are based on the Hebrew Kabbalah. And the tarot cards historically were developed way in the Middle Ages when Christianity came down on groups of people such as myself that were guiding people intuitively, numerologically, astrologically. They were forced into suffering. Therefore, cards were developed that had symbols on them that were used to depict guidance and information to anyone who came to an intuitive or a psychic or a numerologist, because every one of the ancient Rider-Waite deck has a number on it, and those numbers do carry an interpretation, even in the work that I do. Well, then, historically speaking, Christianity came down on the tarot cards and made them bad and made them this and that and the other thing. And so the ancient tarot cards got transformed into what today is the playing deck of cards. The spades, the clubs, the aces, all of that is derived from the ancient tarot cards. And so when one goes to an intuitive, a psychic, or even a tarot reader, they are picking up the energy fields. They're tuning into the energy fields of the person as they are in that moment of time. And it is a gift, and some are very good at it. And I'm not saying that they're not. But there's a lot of charlatans out there also. They are different from the numerology work that I do, where I never really meet my clients because everything's done on the phone, and I come straight off of, very objectively, formulas, interpretation of formulas, and I pull it together. Think of a board puzzle. You know, when we dump the whole box of those gazillions of all those little pieces of a board puzzle on a card table, the first thing we do is attempt to put together the outer frame of the puzzle, the framework, the concrete, actual pictorial framework of that puzzle. After that, we start fitting in pieces of the puzzle until the whole picture in a very concrete, pictorial way comes to fruition. That is the work that I do. I lay down the framework objectively based on ancient information. There's no emotion involved. I don't see my client. I will say that I am gifted in pulling the whole 4 pages of the puzzle together to see the big picture, and I am a channeler, and so as sometimes when I'm telling the story of the 4 pages to my clients on the phone, that I see for their lives either in the big picture from ancient information or for 2014, 2 different kinds of readings. There's times when information comes out of my mouth for them, and I'm thinking, well, where'd that come from? It's like that John Travolta movie of that little baby. Guess who's talking or who's talking? It comes out. So there is quite a difference. One is based on reading the energy fields of the person who is in front of them. I am reading concrete, factual codes of information that I am translating like a language for my clients objectively and non-emotionally.
Elizabeth Summers, my guest here this evening, talking numerology. Hey, you know, we got to take a break, but let's grab a call real quick if we could, okay?
Sure.
Okay, hang on one second. I'm going to grab this phone call right now. Whoops. Good evening. You're on the edge of the unknown. Who's this?
Hi, Mark. This is Julie.
Hey, Julie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Is this the Julie that I think it is?
Yes.
Yes. Awesome, Julie. Thanks so much for being on the edge of the unknown. You're on with Elizabeth
You're
Summers.
welcome. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi, Julie. Thank you for calling in. Do you have a question Or did you want to know, generally speaking, what 2014 holds for you?
I would love what 2014 holds for me.
Okay. Julie, what's your first and middle name? Your first name is Julie. What's your middle name?
Yep, it's Kathleen, Kathlleen.
How old are you, honey?
I'm 51.
Okay. And month and day of birth?
June 22nd.
Well, first of all, Julie, anyone who is born on a birthday number of a 22, and every soul chooses the day to be born, and every soul, which might be something interesting to chat about, chooses its birth name. People say to me, why are you using my birth name? And that is quite a point of conversation. So nevertheless, let's just see what year you are currently in within your 9-year cycle. And you are in year 7 of your 9-year cycle, and it is a kind of a push-pull year. Every year in the 9-year cycle has its own themes, has its own issues. This is going to be a year of significant spiritual awakening for you. Pay attention to your hunches. I also want you to watch your relationships. This is a year of choices, 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 and it has a touch of karma connected to it. So therefore, if someone doesn't feel good anymore in your life, something's not right, do not overanalyze it because there's karma here. Having said that, and you have to make some choices about it also, by the way, there's going to be a lot. This is a thinking year. A lot of new ideas, new contacts, new people. Be sure you watch your health this year. Be sure that you slow down your life as much as possible. And you are in a spiritual year. Of all the 9 years, the 7th year is a spiritual year. And the higher focus of this particular year for you is your work and your career, but I do think you're going to be making some choices connected to relationships, and they are karmic. They are karma issues coming back in your face. So heads up, we say.
All right. Thank you very much, Elizabeth.
You're welcome.
Julie, thanks for listening. I appreciate it.
Yes, no problem. Thank you much. Have a great night.
You too. Take care. Thanks so much. And if anybody wants to get on board, please feel free to do so. 716-393-9525. theedgeoftheunknown@gmail.com. We got some emails that we have to get to, but real quick, I know we mentioned a break. I do want to take one. But Elizabeth, you mentioned, I wrote 2 things down here, and I want to get to both of them. I'll do one when we come back from the break. But you mentioned there's folks out there who might be deceived by other folks. How is one to discern between people being truthful and honest when it comes to things like numerology and the folks that you mentioned that are charlatans? How are people to know?
Well, I strongly suggest that they listen to their gut. They listen to their feelings. Every single person is intuitive. This is how we communicate when we're in the spirit world. There's no words, there's no religion, there's no government, there's none of that. Those are all human constructs. We communicate telepathically. And in the Aquarian age, which we are in now, more and more people are getting back in touch with their valuing their intuitiveness and their hunches. So therefore, if it feels right, okay, follow the advice, knowing, just needing to know that if that advice takes you off track of your spiritual path, the soul will jump out in front of you like a crossing guard with a stop sign, creating obstructions, something's not right, and pay attention to that. We bang our heads against a closed door. And there are charlatans who can pick up what are called victims, emotional victims, people who are so desperate that they give their power away to outside forces instead of believing in their own power. The answers are within.
Interesting. Elizabeth Summers, my guest here this evening on The Edge of the Unknown. We're talking numerology. You want to get on board? If you do, the only things that we ask, if you want to talk a little bit about your numbers and how you might be able to take advantage of them in the coming year, please give your first and middle name, your month and day of birth, as well as your age, and we will be able to do that. Again, I stress this is not a, we're going to tell you your fortune and that sort of thing, so don't call up asking for winning lottery numbers or if you're going to find that special someone, but Elizabeth can at least interpret the numbers that you're going to give her in a numerical way and give you a little insight into what is going on. We've got some emails to get to when we get back. Also, a question that I wanted to ask about this starting off somewhat from a religion. How do religions feel about it now? We're going to be talking about that as soon as we get back from a short break. While you're doing this and listening to these cool messages, check out elizabethsummers.com. Play along at home with me, and we'll be back right after this. Everybody hang on. We'll be back with more of The Edge of the Unknown right after this. Thanks for hanging out with me late on a Sunday night.
Looking for the best in vintage clothing? Look no further than Vintage Wears Boutique at vintagewearsboutique.com. Women's classic jackets and coats, skirts and dresses, all just a click away. Check out the latest inventory online for pictures, sizing, and more. Have a particular item in mind you can't find anywhere else? Go to vintagewearsboutique.com. Still stumped? Try their personal shopper service and let them do the work. Find the best in vintage clothing at vintagewearsboutique.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us at vintagewears_ on Twitter, and see us on Pinterest and Tumblr. vintagewearsboutique.com, where the past is your style.
Hey there, A1B listeners. This is Medium Julie MacDonald, host of Medium at Large. Join me Wednesday nights on All One Broadcast, where together with my guests, we journey into the many different worlds and expressions of spirit through mediumship, astrology, nature, indigenous technologies, alternate universes, otherworldly messengers, and much, much more. You just never know where we're going to land, so strap your seatbelts and tune in to Medium at Large on A1B. Listen, it's the only place to be.
Mark Henry here for the cool cats at Natural Vapors, with 2 locations in Western New York and online at naturalvaporsbuffalo.com. Natural Vapors offers a variety of e-cigarettes and accessories for those making the jump from analog smokes. Whether you're new to vaping or you're a seasoned user, Natural Vapors has what you're looking for. First-time vaping? Visit with their dedicated staff and they'll set you up with a starter kit that is customized for you. For the experienced vapors, they carry the latest smooth batteries and tanks by Kanger. And if you're looking for mods, they've got Innokin mods, custom wraps, and much, much more. Natural Vapors offers dozens of e-liquids to fit your flavor fancy, as well as wholesale e-liquids. And hey, all liquids are made in-house from USA FDA-approved ingredients. Don't take my word for it. Check them out yourself. 2 locations in Western New York, Southgate Plaza in West Seneca, and also in the Union Consumer Square Plaza in Cheektowaga. Not from around here or just don't want to leave the house? Order online at naturalvaporsbuffalo.com and have everything delivered right to your door wherever you are. That's Natural Vapors and naturalvaporsbuffalo.com. Tell them Mark Henry sent you. Welcome back, everybody, to The Edge of the Unknown. My name is Mark Henry. It's funny, I'm listening to that spot that just ran, and terribly interesting that I quit tobacco, using tobacco, 5 years ago now. I was a smoker. I was a dipper, actually, way before I got into the whole smoking thing. But one thing that I did continue with was smoking a pipe, and now I've developed an adult onset of asthma. I can't do that either. A couple of shows back, I had a gentleman on that was so intrigued with the show, and he was like, boy, I'm going to sit back with this interesting conversation and smoke a pipe, and I was so jealous. And now here I am doing spots for this vaping thing. But hey, if you're going to try to quit smoking, go check out my friends at Natural Vapors, naturalvaporsbuffalo.com. Anyway, let's get back into the show. Elizabeth Summers is my guest, elizabethsummers.com. We're talking about numerology. Let's take another call here while we can. 716-393-9525 is the number to get on board. You are on the edge of the unknown. Who is this?
This is Dan.
Hey, Dan. How you doing tonight?
How are you?
Excellent. You're on with Elizabeth Summers. What would you like to ask?
I just wanted to call in. I discovered numerology maybe a couple of years ago, actually, from an employer, person that I work for that is also pretty deep into spirituality, and I've done a little bit of work with that and some other stuff, but I found numerology just to be pretty amazing to read about in different life path numbers. And I've noticed, I don't know, like for some reason when I meet different people, somehow this comes up, and I've noticed that a lot of people that I really resonate with are usually certain numbers, which is pretty interesting. So I guess interested in finding out about the combination of the life path number and your horoscope sign.
Well, okay. All right, Dan, pardon me. Was there something more you wanted to ask there?
Oh, no. Go ahead.
Well, there's a couple things that were in your question, or in your statement, actually. A person's birthday number is their personality, their temperament, if you will. And certain combinations of birthday numbers do seem to be more compatible with each other. For instance, and in numerology, one adds down to a basic number. Now, I interpret all those doubled numbers. I mean, a 6 is a 6 is a 6, but there's 6, 15, 6, 33, 6, 24, 6, and each of those are that jewelry on that basic black dress that adds more depth and dimension and interpretation to the basic 6. But birthday numbers that add down to 3, 6, or 9 are compatible with each other mostly. Those are the artists, those are the teachers, those are the emotional vibrations, temperament-wise. 1, 5, and 7 are compatible with each other. They are the more analytical, the more scientific temperaments. And 2, 4, and 8 are the more managerial, executive, A to B, B to C. That's temperament. That's it in a nutshell. So you can see if you have someone who has a 4, very organized, very structured, hooking up with someone who's a 3, who's a loosey-goosey artist, we would have some compatibility issues to go through. Know that the life path number, I have so many people who say to me when they hear on and find out I'm a numerologist and they've done the doodaddy stuff on the internet, they say, oh, I'm a 3, I'm a 5, I'm a 6. They are not. That is not who you are. They're talking about the life path number, yes, but that's not who you are. That is what your soul has decided as an issue to improve upon in this lifetime. It is also a really big signal as to guide as to careers that one should choose in a lifetime that the soul will keep you connected to in order to improve both domestically, humanly, and spiritually to that life path number. Who a person really is comes from their vowels. Every letter in a person's birth name is assigned a number 1 through 9, or 1 through 8 in my case, since I use couple systems. And the vowels, when they come totally, that is your soul number. That is your emotional self. And that is who the person is. And interestingly enough, that soul number also gives me insight to my clients' past life occupations and emotional experiences and relationships. It's very deep, very fascinating. Does that answer your question?
I guess so. I was kind of curious about the combination of, according to my birthday, which is February 4th, 1981, that equals 7 life path number. And I'm also an Aquarius, at least obviously from my birthday. But I'm just curious about that, if there's anything that...
No, that's absolutely right on target. The number 7, if that's your life lesson number, is that...
I know it's definitely like the loner personality.
Did you say 1981 you were born?
81, yes.
Yeah. Well, your life path number is actually a 6. And it's 15-6 about relationships. But Aquarians and Pisces can be very connected to the number 7 because they are more of the, I call them the cloud variety. They're kind of more not exactly grounded and practical in general. That's a gross generalization, as are Capricorns and Virgos. And so know that Aquarius, and we're in the age of Aquarius, is about spiritual awakening. Very good.
Cool.
1981. No, I'm incorrect. Your life path number is a 7. I added the year wrong. And so it is a 7, and that absolutely aligns with Aquarius. Because it's a spiritual code. And Aquarians are very interested as souls in the spirit life. They kind of work at that particular vibration. Yeah.
Does that make sense, Dan, or does that sound like what you've been told before, or does that sound a little bit different?
I know that I've been a 7, and I don't know, I just find it very interesting, just because I know that a lot of my friends or people that I've been in past relationships with, like, have been a lot of 1s or 5s or sometimes 7s, but usually 1s or 5s.
Well, and usually 7s, people who have a life path number. A life path number, which comes, folks, from adding the month, day, and year of birth together. Many numerologists consider it the most important category in a chart. It's like, okay, fine. To me, the soul number is the most important category in a chart that I do. But the number 7, which I call the Greta Garbo number, I want to be alone, is a vibration that runs throughout the entire lifetime, like a plot line in a novel that the soul has put together prior to birth. And many times the person has, if not the whole lifetime, has large periods of time in their life when they're alone, they're single. And that is because the soul is not permitted to throw its total emotional focus on caretaking of a partner and kids and relationships. It's as though spirit gets a little jealous and says, no, this time around I kind of want you all to myself because I want to talk to you and I want you to be quiet and listen and not be preoccupied in relationships. So a lot of times, a number 7 life path number person will go into research They will go into quieter, they're writers. They'll go into quieter occupations. They will live in nature, go off by themselves in the mountains and live in a cabin someplace, who knows. But they're kind of, sometimes will find themselves leading a life of aloneness. That's different than loneliness. And when they come to me, and it's like, what's wrong with me because I want to be married and I can't be married or whatever, and I explain to them from the soul's perspective what it's about, then it says to them, I understand, and now I understand, and there's nothing wrong with me.
Right. No, I can relate to that a lot because I find myself, I like my alone time. I like being around people, but then it's like I need my time to sort of
absolutely, and you do. Do not fight that. That's exactly. And also, you probably go to a party and stand on the peripheral of the party and scope everything out, and then you choose who you're going to go chat with or not chat with and whatever. So we're not talking about a party animal here. And we're not talking about the most flexible person in the world either, quite honestly. Anyone who has a birthday number of a 4 or an 8, they don't really like change too much. They're not the most flexible personalities in the world. I call them the oak trees. Oak trees. They are not the most flexible bamboos in the world.
Dan, hey, appreciate you giving us a ring. Hopefully you got the answers you were looking for. Thanks again.
I really appreciate it. Yeah.
You bet. Have a great night. Dan on the Edge of the Unknown with Elizabeth Summers, 716-393-9525. You can do the same thing if you'd like to get on board to talk to her. Very interesting conversation there. And, I'm going to do something. I got to do one thing here that I haven't been doing in quite some time, and I'm going to get in trouble. So hang on 1 second while we get this cleared away.
Good evening, and welcome to A1B, mya1b.com, the best in internet radio network entertainment. Have we got a good night planned for you?
Figure we should probably play a station ID every once in a while. All1BroadcastRadioNetwork.com, all1broadcast.com. If you're listening online to the all1broadcast.com webpage, please click on the button that says Live Chat Room. Get involved there, and you can get on board this here radio program. And again, if you miss the show, you'll be able to get the archives on our on-demand section at all1broadcast.com. You can also find us on iTunes. You can find us in a plethora of other places that I'll talk a little bit about more at the end of the show. But right now, let's get back to Elizabeth Summers. ElizabethSummers.com is my guest. If you want to get on board, 716-393-9525 is the way to do so. The Edge of the Unknown at gmail.com. I'm scratching down all these questions over here, and I do want to get to some emails because I'm getting a backlog here. Erica writes in, fun conversation. I'd like to ask how can two people have the same life numbers and have such different beginnings, different life choices, different life outcomes? If it's a mathematical thing, how can it deviate? Thanks, Erica. No, thank you for being on the Edge of the Unknown. Elizabeth, perfect question for you.
Perfect question, and I get this asked about twins and multiple births. Multiple births that indicate that soul, those souls, chose to be born on the same day, basically at the same time in the same year, and they wind up, therefore, with the same life path number, the same blueprint, the same plot line of their blueprint. Yes, they do. The caveat is that they, however, have different names. The name is the toolbox of memories that a soul comes in with. To digress here and get a bit metaphysical, the soul prior to birth puts together a whole game plan, what it wants to work on, goes to what is called its karmic group. I call them their best buds. They're souls that the person, that the person, the soul that wants to be human again, has hung out with another lifetimes, and he or she knows them, and back and forth. And so your soul, my soul, every soul, ask our best buds to come into our life to play a role, to be actors in our novel, so to speak. Therefore, in a nutshell, it is important to understand that every soul chooses its parents. Every soul chooses the souls by soul contract, by soul agreement. The person who plays the role of mother, the role of father, husband, boyfriend, some will hang out for a whole lifetime. Some will pop in and out various chapters in a lifetime. They are there because you asked them to be. What are you learning from them? What are they learning from you? Mark, what?
No, actually, I'm sorry. We just had a cross connection because we had another caller calling in. 716-393-9525. You are on the air with Elizabeth Summers. Go ahead.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, caller. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Is this Craig?
This is Craig.
Hey, Craig. How are you? You're on with Elizabeth Summers. You have a question or comment?
Oh, I actually was kind of intrigued by this whole thing and was wondering what she can give me.
Please do. If you would give her your first and middle name, the month and day of your birth, and your age, and she will take it from there.
Oh, my God. You mean I got to give all this out to people out there listening?
Oh, please. It's too late.
It's Craig Eugene.
And Craig, how old are you?
I'm 54.
54. And what is your month and day of birth?
10/18.
Okay, 10/18. Well, first of all, everyone who's listening who's 54 years of age, your life during your 50s, it's a specific formula called an age digit vibration, and it gives me a general insight as to what is one of the themes that a person is going through at any particular age. Know that anyone who is 54 years of age is going to bring some things by choice to conclusions during your 54th year of age. Either money deals, financial deals, situations along those lines. I do want you to watch for ethics and opportunities for you this year. There is a conclusion going on. Everyone who goes into 55 years of age will lay down the seeds for a new beginning, a new direction in their lives. It usually takes until 56 for it to grab hold, number one. The number 18 is a little toughie. The number 18 is a birthday number. It influences your life, Craig, from 30 to 55, generally speaking. And it is about endings, finishing, and completions. A lot of things are temporary. It frequently brings on separations, relationship separations, even divorces with the N in the name of Eugene and the E of the letters in a person's middle name tells me a lot about their emotional baggage they're bringing in here from other lifetimes. Know that you have a very compassionate humanitarian birthday number, very different from the birth month that you were born. You came in here like a bulldozer, and in the middle lane of your life got your heart softened in many ways. And you are in year 7, as is Julie. And interestingly enough, it's an identical combination of 7. 7, 16, 7, 34, 7. Not all 7s come out interpreted the same way. And so know that I think this year you're going to have to make lots of choices, even emotional choices. There's going to be lots of people, lots of contacts, lots of new opportunities that are going to quite possibly, when you are 55 years of age, bring you new career opportunities, even new property, real estate situations. So this is a quiet year again. This is a spiritual year. This is a great year to go on vacation. And go where there's water, mountains, or desert. But go. Yep, wrap it up this year to a large degree. Wrap it up. Thanks for calling in, Craig.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Mark. Great show as always, man.
Appreciate it, man. Craig, have a great evening. Thanks so much.
Bye.
So, Kathleen, I got to ask, and I want to jump back to this because I wrote this down. When you talked a little bit about a lot of the stuff being based in some of the larger religions, and they kind of started to chase people away, that sort of thing, or look down on it. Does that maintain what's going on today? Do religions and religious folks from the mainstream religions still look down on numerology, psychics, the whole thing? I would assume the answer is yes, but I'd rather you address that.
Well, really it was for politics in the Middle Ages, tremendously. And if they still do, in this day and age, I think they would be more towards the fundamentalist genre versus the more broad-minded ecumenical genre, because in the Middle Ages, in the Piscean Age, when a lot of Christianity was in charge politically, it denied any free thinking that was not in agreement with the Pope, with the belief systems that were laid down by the Politico at the time, and therefore anyone who attempted to use their intuition, talk about it, display it, use these tools, were burned at the stake, were killed, were crucified, had their tongues cut out, whatever. Now, in the charts that I do for people, that is showing up, because all of that past life memory. In the Aquarian age where we are now, which is the age when souls are realizing that they know that they know that they know, and they don't give a hoot and a holler what somebody dressed up in some fancy-dancy cloak and whatever is trying to tell them what to do. They're listening to their own inner knowing. If it doesn't feel right, they're not going to do it. That's very good, because the intuitiveness is the soul, is Mother, Father, God, through the soul, talking to them, guiding them from within. Now, certainly people can get confused, and they need a little bit of outside guidance, but basically what turns out with the work that I do many times, I am, from my very objective work, I am simply confirming to them what they already know. And how sweet is that? And so therefore, in the charts that I do, maybe the person's life path number, their issue that they're here to improve upon, is to express and get in touch with again and allow it to be revealed, the gift that they have walking around with. But they are so darn afraid to open their mouths because on a subconscious level, they remember when they were burned at the stake. Oh, no, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to trust that. I'm not going to, because I remember when I got killed for it. And so there's a big transition that is going on where people must learn not to be afraid, not to be afraid. Because when you connect with your own inner knowing and you follow that and let the cards fall where they may, you're much more willing to take responsibility for your own self. And know, absolutely 1,000%, that if the soul is on the wrong path, their soul will block it. Obstructions are in our lives to get us to think in new directions. And so therefore, when it's time to go, time to leave, a relationship, a job, a location, things will start to become disruptive. A person's outside world is a mirror of their inside world. And so when their outside world energy is no longer for their highest good and greatest joy, they'll begin to not be happy. They'll begin to feel something just isn't right here. On and on and on and on. And when they don't pay attention to that, and when it is time to bust a move, that's when the drama happens in their lives. That's when they get tired. That's when this happens. And who needs that? And the older you get, folks, you just want a simple, peaceful life. And so I try to teach people what is on the horizon, how to handle it, what it's about, when it's going to begin, when it's going to be a middle, and when it's going to end. Everything has a beginning, a middle, and an end, except Mother, Father, God. And so I think in the Aquarian age now, more and more and more, and it's just beautiful to see. It's like a little baby who gets confidence in itself to take its hands off the coffee table and take those first steps across the room to a mother, father, very lovingly with its hands out saying, come on, I'm here, I'll catch you. And that's exactly what is happening to many souls in this moment of time. Come on, I'll catch you, don't be afraid. Yep.
And it's amazing because so much, and I grew up, well, I'm in one of these weird people. I've been baptized 3 times. I was baptized in the Presbyterian Church. I was baptized in the Catholic Church. And my grandmother baptized me in her sink because my parents weren't attending church at the time and she didn't want me to go to limbo. So she was figuring that she would just take care of all that. So I think I'm covered on pretty much all the bases. Unless I start eating kosher, maybe I can, protect myself that way. But I think it's interesting. And the reason that I asked that question is because so much of the Christian religion that I am terribly familiar with is based on numbers. The 10 Commandments, the 12 Apostles, the Trinity, 666, all of this stuff is based on numbers. Why would they suddenly turn around and look at someone who is using the same, perhaps maybe a little bit different, but the same idea and the same ideology as awful people, and you're a soothsayer, you're a witch, you're a whatever? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, it doesn't make any sense, but it comes down to the fact that if people used information other than what the Pope or the Christianity or the Politico were purporting that they should believe, if they broke the norm and followed their own use of numbers, that was a challenge to the powers that be, and they did not allow it. You're absolutely correct. It is silly. But numerology and astrology, there is no predestination. Anyone who works properly in astrology and in esoteric, I am a spiritual numerologist, but an esoteric numerologist, it's my specialty. It's like the doctor has a specialty, oncology, pediatrics, and what have you. I use the ancient spiritual tools to go deep into the soul's journey this time around. If they dared to follow any of that, it was seen as a challenge, and therefore they suffered the consequences. They wanted people to walk to the beat of their drum.
Elizabeth Summers, my guest here this evening on The Edge of the Unknown. You want to get on board? 716-393-9525, elizabethsummers.com. You can also shoot me an email at theedgeoftheunknown@gmail.com. I do have an email that I want to get to, but we do have to take a quick break here, and I think I'm going to do a quick experiment when we get back. I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier. I've mentioned at the top of the very beginning of the show, numbers mean a whole lot to me, and I want to ask Elizabeth. I'm going to put my butt on the line, which is rare because normally I just pretend that I'm the moderator and I want to walk everyone else through these very interesting journeys that we do on The Edge of the Unknown on Sunday nights from 8 until 10 p.m. I'm going to ask her some questions about me. If she's up for that, I'm sure she is. And again, we want to hear from you throughout the evening. So again, 716-393-9525, the numbers to get on board. ElizabethSummers.com is the website you should be checking out while we take a fast break. And again, theedgeoftheunknown@gmail.com, your way to get on board. If you're not already a fan of the Edge of the Unknown radio show on Facebook, find it. Just search for it, like it. You can shoot me a message there. Send me a message at any time during the week, and I will get back to you personally. If you're not a fan of the All One Broadcast Radio Network, Search for A1B on Facebook as well. Like that page for updates on all the great shows and everything coming up. We're back right after this. Everybody, thanks for hanging out with me late on a Sunday evening. My name is Mark. This is The Edge of the Unknown. Back with Elizabeth Summers right after this.
Hey everybody, this is Medium Julie MacDonald for All One Broadcast, the best station for paranormal and all things spirit. At A1B, there are no canned, pre-recorded shows. Join us and interact with our hosts in our live chat room. Ask questions. Get answers. All fresh, all live, all the time. Join us at A1B, the only place to be.
Looking for the best in vintage clothing? Look no further than Vintage Wears Boutique at vintagewearsboutique.com. Women's classic jackets and coats, skirts and dresses, all just a click away. Check out the latest inventory online for pictures, sizing, and more. Have a particular item in mind you can't find anywhere else? Go to vintagewearsboutique.com. Still stumped? Try their personal shopper service and let them do the work. Find the best in vintage clothing at vintagewearsboutique.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us at vintagewears_ on Twitter, and see us on Pinterest and Tumblr. vintagewearsboutique.com, where the past is your style.
Hi everyone, Mark Henry here from The Edge of the Unknown, coming at you every Sunday night from 8 to 10 p.m. here on the All One Broadcast Radio Network. Each week I'll bring you great guests from the world of the strange, the unexplained, and the paranormal for great talk and discussion, but I want you to be a part of it too. Share your experiences and stories by calling 716-393-9525, email theedgeoftheunknown@gmail.com, shoot me a message on Facebook, just look for The Edge of the Unknown Radio Show, or tweet me at EdgeTheUnknown. Coming up this Sunday, January 19th, we're talking conspiracy theories. A first on The Edge of the Unknown with Dr. Barna Donovan. We'll be talking about Area 51, the HARP Project, the Denver Airport, you name it, we will be discussing it, as well as his book, Conspiracy Films, a tour of dark places and the American conscious. Be there. So join me, Mark Henry, each and every Sunday evening from 8 to 10 on The Edge of the Unknown, only on the All One Broadcast Radio Network.
What's that? Who's there? I don't know. But this here is Mark Henry, and you're listening to The Edge of the Unknown.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with me and my guest and all of the cool people hanging out in the chat room at the allonebroadcast.com chat room. Very, very cool to see some activity going on there. Thanks for everyone who has called in. You still have plenty of time to get on board. If you would like to talk to my guest, Elizabeth Summers, we're talking numerology and a lot of intelligent conversation that we're having here tonight. And again, I appreciate everybody who is who's called in for a little bit of explanation for their life path number, for some things that might be coming up in the next year. We're going to talk a little bit about some more general things that we're going to be coming up in the year 2014. From Elizabeth's standpoint. But again, if you want to get on board, give us a call, 716-393-9525, theedgeoftheunknown@gmail.com. I've got a couple of emails that I do have to get to, but I'm going to take a quick moment here. Excuse me, and I'm going to put my butt on the line. Normally I don't do this, but because I've been interested in this and I've been chasing numerologists around to come on the show, and Elizabeth is the first one to say, hey, I'll do this, which is awesome of her. I wanted to ask her about some personal numbers in my life, not necessarily a life path number, but numbers that have meant quite a serious deal to me. Earlier in the show, Elizabeth, you mentioned people who tend to notice certain times, or they look at the clock at a certain time. Is that normal, or is that something that that does stick out to you, or is that something that just does happen to everybody?
It's a consciousness thing. I personally, on my digital clocks in my kitchen, of course in my kitchen, when I walk in there, It's just something that almost turns my head, and it's always a double number. Double numbers are very powerful vibrations. Only old souls take on double numbers. They are double-loaded 44223366. They are double-loaded energies that are very powerful. They're compounded, and therefore, because I, one, am an old soul, and an old soul as a term has nothing to do with how we might feel here at 10 o'clock at night. It has to do with the evolution of a spiritual ability. It has to do, I always call them like grandparents of spirituality. And old souls, and there are codes that show up on my charts that indicate an old soul, whether or not one is an old soul. But old souls do not have to come into the third dimension, the human form, in order to do their spiritual growth. They are sufficiently spiritually, soul-wise evolved to do their work at other galaxies, at other planetary evolutionary things. You know, we humans think we're it. Well, I hate to tell you, folks, we're not it. We're just one of many, many, many. And so old souls, so double numbers are old souls. And so inevitably, I am drawn, it's like a magnetic pull. Conscious, oh, look at there's a 4-4. Oh, turn around, there's a 6-6. Ba-ba-dee-ba-ba. And all that is basically doing is that is a technique that my specific guides use to let me know that they're with me, that they are here, that I'm not alone. That is one of the tools that they use for me specifically. Other people will see license plates. They'll see the same repetitive numbers on a license plate, or they'll go on see it on a clock, or the guides are not going to come down and peer in front of us like Peyton Manning, tell us what to do. It doesn't work that way. They keep giving us hints. They'll use everything they can. And this goes for loved ones, our family members who are in spirit. When they want to communicate to us and let us know that they're around, they will use a song, or you'll just start to hum a song that reminds you of them. And that's when their soul is it's just a form of communication. And it's like a coincidence. People say, oh, what a coincidence. But they're being really cool about it. It's just what they use.
Very interesting. No, that's excellent. And I'm going to hold off my questions. Someone has been trying to call in, and I suggest that they call back again, as I am the chief cook and bottle washer here, being your own engineer, being your own interviewer, and having to run the board. You can't do everything all at once. So someone was trying to call in to talk to you, Elizabeth. I'm going to give them this opportunity to please call back. 716-393-9525 is your way onto the Edge of the Unknown with Elizabeth Summers. ElizabethSummers.com. Let's talk real quick, and before this person calls back, and before we delve into what I wanted to talk about, my specific numbers, you mentioned that you're working on a book. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, I'm working actually on 2 projects.
Great.
They'll be coming out in about 2 years. Well, one I have already on my website in my store, and a wonderful numerology workbook for beginners. I teach workshops, and I have put it all on a formal book that can be ordered, and also an ebook. A lot of people are ordering the ebook of my numerology workbook for beginners.
Oh, great.
But my 2 projects that will be done probably in 2 years, numerologically speaking. One is it's called Lovely Living Through the Numbers. And it is a cookbook where I have various chapters where the various personalities, like various types of spicy foods, foods, this and that and the other thing. And so it's a numerology book as well, explanation of temperaments and tastes and beauty and what have you, but also recipes, because I am a chef. And the other one is called Voices in My Kitchen. How original is that? But it is a series of stories of what I personally have experienced, of how spirit guided me while in my kitchen to go do this and that and the other thing, and how it all turned out. And the purpose of writing that book and those stories is to let people know how it works for them. You know, there is such a learning curve going on that they need to learn how and pay attention to their techniques and the outcomes. And so it's really very delightful. And in fact, the reason that I'm in Colorado is because in 1996, I was living in Northern California. And I walked into my kitchen, and a voice, spirit voice, said to me, exact words, "You are moving to Colorado." I stopped dead in my tracks. I said, "What?" Repeated it. "You are moving to Colorado." It was January. So in February, I went back east to teach workshops, to do my readings for clients and whatever. My own personal channeler was there back east. I sat in front of her, and she said, "Oh, they're telling me that you're moving to Colorado." So therefore, I was here. I came in Colorado in April. I moved in August, and it's been the best move of my whole life. I listened. Now, I will say, people say, okay, fine. But I moved because I was told to move. I had no money. I knew no one. I had no job. I had no place to live. My friend said, go stay with my friends for a while. But I was told, and I went, and I did it, and landed on my feet very nicely. So
yeah, but now you're a Broncos fan. Come on.
I'm really a Green Bay Packer
I know you
fan,
mentioned that, but come on,
actually.
you can't pick. You got to pick one or the other, all right? I mean, I live in Buffalo, and I had to cover the Bills. I actually told someone today, as a reporter, I had to cover the Bills, and that's why I don't care if they lose, because there's no emotional attachment. But God, who did you really want to win last week? Was it you wanted the Broncos to win this week and not the Packers? Come on, admit it.
Well, the only reason is that of Peyton Manning. I've been here since 1997 and could care less about the Broncos. But I think I enjoy very much Peyton Manning. And I tell you, I live right around Boulder, right by Denver. This place is crazy. God save us if the Broncos lose, because you will have more people in depression than anywhere else in the world. This place is just, everyone's orange. They're dressing their dogs and their cats in Bronco shirts. They're putting stickers on their cars. Please.
Well, and I'll say this. Whoever, again, if someone keeps calling, and I can't just answer the phone the way that you want me to, folks. So please call right now if you've got a question for Elizabeth Summers. Elizabeth, speaking of a number, which is completely arbitrary at this point, you mentioned Peyton Manning. I love Peyton Manning. I loved him at Tennessee. I thought he was going to be one of the best, which he has turned out to be. But my favorite quarterback, because I'm a New Orleans Saints fan, and I have been since I was about, knee-high to a grasshopper, 4. My prized possession is an authentic Archie Manning jersey, Peyton's daddy. So number 8, we can talk a little bit about that down the line, but obviously it runs in the family. Let's do this. Let's grab a phone call. Thanks to this person who has been calling in. I appreciate your patience. You are on the Edge of the Unknown with Elizabeth Summers. Who's this?
This is Becky.
Hi, Becky. Thanks so much for your patience. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
What's your question or comment to Ms. Summers?
I don't really have so much of a question. Pretty fascinating listening. I was just curious if perhaps my life number, my birthday is this month, and so just really love listening and was just curious.
Okay, Becky, what is your month and day of birth?
January the 22nd.
January 22nd, and how old are you?
34.
34. Okay, there's going to be big changes in your life this year for sure. Know that you have a very powerful birthday number of someone who can think big, plan big, organize big, can be very detail oriented, not the most flexible person in the world, And you may find yourself doing two things at once, even two jobs at once. You are the sign, you're right on the cusp of Capricorn. And Capricorns are going to be under, not going to be, they are under major reconstruction, major remodeling, if you will, until 2023. So you're like Capricorn Aquarius, which is apples and oranges, actually. And the personal year that you have just entered into is year 3. And this is a happy year. This is a year of expansion and travel and good luck and opportunity. And know that your values are on the line. Little attitude adjustment about your own self-worth, your own self-esteem. But generally speaking, I want you to find your voice this year. Your soul's going to put in front of you people, places, situations that's going to ask you the question, now, Becky girl, is this what you think you deserve? Yes or no? And as a consequence of reevaluation of your own self-worth, there's going to be some big changes this year for you. That's only going to intensify even more so when you're 35, where there might be a change of residence, even relationships in some fashion. So I think you're right on the cusp of some real growth here, honey, big time.
What was
Thanks,
your last
Becky.
word of some real? Thank
What?
you. I just missed
You're
the last
welcome.
word you said. Thank you.
Becky, thanks for being on the edge. I appreciate it. Have a great
Thank
evening.
you. The same to you.
You bet. 716-393-9525 is your way to get on board with Elizabeth Summers. She is a numerologist. Check out her website, elizabethsummers.com. She just talked about some books that are upcoming, so be on the lookout for that. If you want to get on board the show, we've got plenty of time left. A couple of emails, but I want to get back into my experiment because I mentioned about looking at the clock, and you mentioned double digits. And again, I normally don't do this. I don't talk about myself too much on this here radio program, and I haven't done so in the last, we're coming up on 5 years. This is awesome. But I'm gonna throw this out to you because there is a number, and I'm going to give you a little bit of background, Elizabeth, and you can tell me what you think about this. Every day, whether it is AM or PM, if I am asleep at night, I will wake up. If it is the middle of the day and I'm at work, or I am out on a run, if I am water skiing, if I'm doing whatever I am doing, I will immediately look to whatever nearest timepiece is available and notice that is 3:33. I was born in May of 1974 at 3:33 in the morning during a thunderstorm. I eventually moved into the home that I am living in now, which has a number of 334. When I was working for WGR in the late 90s, when the Buffalo Sabres went on their cup run and played the Dallas Stars in the Stanley Cup Finals, my media badge, which I am still holding on to, I actually have it in my hand right here. If anybody wants to buy it, it's a piece of sports memorabilia. The number that I was assigned was 336. I actually have tattooed on my body the number 333 because it means that much to me, and it has played such a huge role in my life with patterns of 3, whether it would be jobs or relationship, whatever. Everything that happens in my life always happens in 3s, and I know that's kind of a generic thing to say, but coupled with all of the other things that have happened with me and my fixation with the number 333, I'm going to throw that out to you and ask you, what do you think that means?
I think it's excellent. The number 3 all by itself is in astrology is the energy of Jupiter. Jupiter is the energy of good luck, abundance, expansion. It carries excellent vibration. Numerologically speaking, the number 3 is that of self-expression, of creativity. It's a happy number. It is a very lovely vibration of self-expression. And the very fact that you are a talker, the number 3 is that of the voice, and it is excellent, excellent, excellent. And so you resonate, you vibrate to that particular energy field, and I will tell you that it is excellent. I would be very happy to have that.
I am terribly happy.
But it's about good luck. It is about riches. It is about wealth. That has to do with a value system that is not necessarily about money.
Mm-hmm.
It's a happy energy that has a joy connected to, the joie de vivre connected to it, that I would say continue on. It is your own personal energy field vibration. The house where you live in adds to a 1 and a 10-1. The energy of the total number of the house or office, actually, or condominium or apartment that anyone lives in, that single number is indicative of the vibration of energy that covers that whole property. And yours is a 1 of drive and courage and initiative and independence. It is, and it's a 10-1, actually, which is the wheel of good fortune, honey. So I hope that's working for you there, too. And so I would not big brain this. I would just giggle. I mean, it's one of those combinations that I say gives you the giggles. Now, 333 adds down to a 9. The number 9 is that of teacher. Isn't that what you're doing on your show? It's that of wisdom giver. It's that of shaman. It is that of sharing information with people in a very humanitarian way. It's what you're doing. You're using your voice.
And my day job is public relations for a great school district.
Exactly.
So there you go.
Exactly. And the number 9's excellent for human resources. Human resources, especially 189. I think it was Craig who had the 189 birthday number, and that temperament combines business and humanitarian services. It's a great temperament for working with people. So there you go.
Very interesting.
You're doing good.
And normally I don't share that sort of thing because at 333 means a lot of other things to me personally, but it's very interesting to hear that from you. Let's grab a call here. Hang on one second. And we will ask for your name. Hey, you're on the edge of the unknown. You're speaking with numerologist Elizabeth Summers. Who's this?
Hi, Mark. This is Dave from Lovejoy.
Hey, Dave. How you doing, my friend?
Oh, pretty good. And I have a great question since you asked about the 333. My number is always revolves around 13, and you understand, I think I told you before about this. My name is David Paul. My last name ends in 4 letters, which is up to 13. I'm born on 11/29/58. That's 1313. My house number is 157. That is 13. A lot of the bad things that happen in my life always happen either on the 13th or as of the 13th. I would love to hear about this. Thanks, Mark.
Okay. The name of Dave starts with the letter D, of course, which has the number 4 connected to it. This is called a cornerstone vibration. The first letter of anybody's first name indicates their attitude towards life, their thought patterns, how they're approaching human beingness in this lifetime, and that is very deliberate. That is very deliberate. The letter D. A to B, B to C, C to D. The number 13 was given a bad rap in the Middle Ages by Christianity because the 13th card of the tarot deck is the death card. And everyone gets freaky whenever I see that number and I talk to them about that number in their chart. And I always, the first thing out of my mouth is saying, no one's going to die. But what is dying? And if I looked at your chart in a bigger fashion, I would probably be able to nail it for you, is that the number 13, if it's constantly appearing, as it sounds like it does, tells me that from the soul's perspective, you as a soul in this lifetime, through human being experiences and emotional, are going through major transformational growth. There is a death of the old way of doing life on so many levels by your soul in this lifetime, especially in partnerships, business and personal partnerships. Those that are born in November and February also have mother issues, especially Scorpios. Now, know that their mother, those born in the months that adds to an 11, or those that add to, or in February, have their mother is the most important imprinter. Our parents are what are called imprinters. They are in our face behaviorally for us to experience and to decide with our new free will that we're using this time around to be like them or not be like them. And this is what people just blows their minds, but this is metaphysical concepts. Our parents reflect aspects of us that we were in previous lifetimes. That's why we chose them to play those roles. Then in this lifetime, they are in our face for us to choose to be like them or not be like them. And so know that November and February people, their mother, good, bad, or indifferent, is the most important imprinter to them. You are going through that. 13 is excellent. It's saying, out with the old. I always say it's like coming out of diapers going in a big boy pants because it is out with the old and growth into a whole brand new you that is going on in this particular lifetime. It is the death card. Do not be concerned about it.
So I actually have something to look forward to in my life besides a lot of bad things then?
Well, you see, to me, there's no good or bad because that's an attitude. And so, therefore, anyone who has a birthday number, which adds to an 11, which adds to a 2, the number 2 is their temperament, and every number has a positive and a negative side. It's like two sides of the fence. And so sometimes people who have a number 2 birthday number personality, they feel like a victim. They feel victimized. The negative of the number 2 is victim. And so therefore, your job in this lifetime is to set boundaries, negotiate win-win situations. There are no victims. It is all about choices. And you listen to your intuition. But I have had many clients with the birthday number 2, and including my own mother. And she always, the glass was always half empty. And she always played the role of victim, especially in partnerships, business and personal relationships. But the 29 can be really, really, really a good birthday number. Let me see what year you are in your current. And you are an old soul, by the way. You volunteered to come in, so I don't want to hear about bad things. And you are you're in year 1 of a brand new 9-year cycle. New beginnings, new starts, new opportunities. And here's another really cool formula that I use in my work. Remember, I use 4 pages. And the chart is like a house. Think of a house. And every house has all these rooms in it. But each room has its own function. Bedroom, kitchen, bathroom, garage. And so everything is within the house. And what I do is I work formulas specific to each of those rooms. It's your soul. Is it what you're here to do? Is it this? Is it that? Is it something else? Well, every 9-year cycle has 2 umbrella issues that it takes a person 9 years to go plowing through. You're done with the last one. So maybe the last 9-year cycle was a little fussy. Doesn't mean that the next 9-year cycle is going to be the same theme. Nope. You're in year 1 of a brand new, and it's a 10-1, the Wheel of Good Fortune. You go, Dave.
Thank you very much. You made my day today. Thank you. Thanks, Mark.
David, thanks so much for calling in. 716. Good night, David. 716-393-9525. We got a couple of more minutes to go. Elizabeth Summers, numerologist, is my guest this evening. Check out her website, elizabethsummers.com. We've got gosh, I hope we don't go over, but we might have to. And the powers that be can yell at me tomorrow, and I'll take that. But we do have some emails to get to. And this one is very, very interesting. And I think you're really going to like this one, Elizabeth. This one comes in from Don from Wales Center, which is a town a little bit southeast of Buffalo, New York, which is where this show is originating right now. Don writes in, this is going to sound weird, but my grandfather, my father, and myself were all born on the same day at pretty much the same time. Interesting. I am not named after any of them, but a lot of things that happened to my grandfather also happened to my dad in later life, and I'm wondering if it's possible that similar things might happen to me. This includes job changes, relationships, and health issues, but not necessarily the same health problems. They all just happened at the same time. I was born on March 14th at about 11:30 in the morning. Again, Don, I'm from Wales Center, and so is my entire family. Don, thanks for listening to The Edge of the Unknown, and sorry, hopefully you're still listening, and hopefully Elizabeth can give you a little bit of commentary on your questions.
Well, that's kind of a lot to think about on the radio here. My heavens, the years are different, the dates are the same, as I recall that.
Yeah, he didn't give all the dates. He just said every day is the same, March 14th at about 11:30 in the morning.
All three of them were born on March 14th?
Well, according to him, he says hang on, let me get back to the, this is going to sound weird, but my grandfather, my father, and myself were all born on the same day at pretty much the same time. But that's all he says.
Okay. All right. Well, that cannot be explained numerologically. That is a determination by the soul prior to incarnation. Every soul chooses when it wants to be born, the month, the day, the year, and the millisecond. I do not want to hear about C-sections and premature births and early deliveries and all of that. Doesn't work that way. The soul chooses when to be born because it needs to work energetically in conjunction where the universe is at that very moment of time. Why those three guys, those three souls decided to be born on the same day is beyond me, quite honestly. I've never had that situation presented to me before where all three of them were born on the same day, but it was a soul agreement for some reason, and it's not a bad thing. It is just what they decided to improve upon, work upon individually. Each one of them individually, and they chose that combination of days in order to carry it out. Dave's in a really nice year in 2014. I did his numbers here. You are in a 6th year, which is all about relationships, excellent for business, anything for house and home, moving to a new house or home, fluffing up, decorating a house or home, excellent. And it's a 24/6, which is called the love vibration. And so your relationship should be kind of yummy this year. Next year you might choose to make some changes, but this is a good year for you in 2014.
Look, you're changing my show from The Edge of the Unknown to talk about the paranormal. Now I'm going to be the love connector. Come on.
Well, it's a beautiful, see, 6 is a 6. But they're 6, 15, 6. It's a little tricky, not so good, little problems in relationships. But 24/6 is a beautiful vibration and one of the good financial numbers, too. Very good. So I think this is a good year for him. I do.
Real quick, we've got a couple of minutes literally left. I want to get to this email. The others, if I don't get to you, I will email you personally during the week. theedgeoftheunknown@gmail.com. Again, Elizabeth Summers, my guest this evening here on The Edge of the Unknown. We've blown off some breaks because we've had a lot of fun interaction. Terry writes in, good evening. How does all this apply to twins? My sister and I are alike in so many ways, but in others we are polar opposites. That said, we still feel things at the same time and are unique way of looking at things is noticeable by many people in our family. We are both 23, but our lives are very different, yet still close to one another. Terry, thanks for writing in.
That's an excellent question, and I get that periodically too. I think I started to even talk about this earlier in the show. Twins are born, sextuplets, quadruplets, are born because the soul wants to share the soul of the mother. The spiritual connection is between the mother and the baby. Doesn't mean dad's not in there someplace, but the spiritual energetic connection is between the soul of the baby and the soul of the mother. And twins and all the multiples, they want to share that mother for some specific reason in their soul's journey, number one. Number two, both twins, all the multiples, they will have the same life path number because they're born on the same day and the same time. So astrologically, it will be similar. They will have a similar journey, and they will have a similar life path number. What does make the difference, however, is the name is different. The birth name represents to me numerologically the person's past life experiences that it has had, the memory of which is held in the soul's memory bank, in the subconscious, and comes forward into this incarnation to bubble up periodically to be used like tools in a toolbox. And I have a fabulous formula. It's like going to therapy. Fabulous formula where I'm able to tell people what are their issues, what are their challenges, what is their karma, why are they doing what they're doing and whatever. And they can straighten that out. Know that every soul names itself. Here's another aha moment. Every soul, prior to being born, telepathically goes to the soul of the person or persons who eventually names it and tells it, this is the name that I want, because when I say that name as a human being, it's a sound, and that sound is an energy, and that energy triggers my memories of how to do human beingness this time around. And one day Mom says, oh, I think I'm going to call Bob. Case closed. Every soul names itself. Every birth name is a toolbox. When a woman takes on a married name or stage name or whatever, they are called angles of development, and they can put missing tools energetically into the memory box this time around to be used in the future. Most of the time it's in a positive way. Sometimes those married names can throw things off terrifically. So we as numerologists recommend hyphenated. Keep your last name, which is your spiritual memories and baggage, hyphenated, and take on the man's name should you choose. That way you are carrying two spiritual barometers as tools to work with. Mm-hmm. And we thought it was the feminist in the 60s.
Wow. Well, hey, good way to end the show. Elizabeth, thank you so much for being my guest. I really appreciate it. Are we going to do this again?
I would love to.
Excellent. I'm going to keep you. You can't escape me now. I've got all your phone numbers and email addresses, so too late. Now you're in you are in the Edge of the Unknown Paranormal Rolodex. There is no escape from that black hole. Elizabeth, thank you so much. Everybody, check out her website, elizabethsummers.com. She's got some worksheets up there if you're interested in checking out the numbers yourself. Go and visit. We will bring her back on in a future show. We have to wrap things up here. I'm a little bit over, which is A-okay, and I'm sure that the powers that be will let me slide. But I want to remind everybody for next week, it's going to be a very, very cool show. We are going to have Dr. Barna Donovan on talking conspiracy films. And actually, that's his book, Conspiracy Films, but we're going to be talking about all of the very, very interesting conspiracy theories that are out there. It's not normally something that we talk about here on the Edge of the Unknown, but there is a first for everything, and that's what we are going to be doing. So again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I kind of want to take a moment out again to not necessarily do a whole a dedication or that kind of thing, but I do kind of want to just mention to everybody some folks that are near and dear to the Edge of the Unknown. some folks that have passed away this past week. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, Steve Cull's mom. Steve is the Squatch Detective. Look for him on a lot of Bigfoot documentaries on the History Network and National Geographic Channel, Discovery. He's there quite frequently. And again, to Bridget Shue, who is the wife of my former program director at WECK. Bridget entered into eternity this week after a long battle with cancer. So everybody, thank you for all the calls. Thank you for all the interaction on the live chat room. Thank you for listening to The Edge of the Unknown, and thank you for supporting the All One Broadcast Radio Network. If you missed the show in its entirety, find it on demand shortly after this broadcast, and you can also find it on iTunes and a number of other places. Find my webpage at Facebook, Edge of the Unknown Radio Show. I always put updates there, and the website will be up in the next 2 weeks, I promise, for more blog opportunities, for more interaction during the week. But I will always be here, your faithful moderator of the paranormal, on Sunday evenings from 8 until 10 p.m. on the Edge of the Unknown. My name is Mark. Thanks for hanging out with me late on a Sunday, whether you're kicking your week off or wrapping it up. And remember, above all things, when you've stopped questioning, you've stopped thinking. We'll see you next week, everybody, with Dr. Barna Donovan. Have a great week.